So this video here is from Legendary Drops. Dude's amazing. I love his reporting and his video essays on the gaming industry. This is called I Talked to Ubisoft Devs. It's worse than we could imagine. Let's see what they got.
At Ubisoft reach out wanting to make sure that the right story is being told, and these guys are running out of time. While the company has been trying to put on a strong face, pretend like they have a plan moving forward, well, things internally have been falling apart faster and faster every single day, with many developers at the company now believing that this is just going to be the end of Ubisoft, and many of them are just preparing to leave. They've been telling me that there is new leadership that's being put in place that's completely unproven and never even worked on a game before. They've allegedly been lying about their entire plans to be able to save the company. Most of it's all just smoke and mirrors. They've been telling their employees to outright ignore player criticism because we don't know what we're talking about, apparently. And these guys still somehow believe that they are the king of open world games, at least in their eyes. And they've even gone as far as to shut down any conversations at the company around Expedition 33 or Dispatch, games coming from former Ubisoft employees because, well, they don't, really match up with the direction that the company is going in. And also, those games are kind of flukes.
Wow.
Ubisoft isn't listening to reason. They're not listening to their players. They're not listening to their developers. Hell, they just recently fired one for speaking out online. And now the company is sitting at its lowest point in history. So we have the developers coming out to set the record straight.
Oh. Somebody got fired for speaking out? What the? Okay. All right, let me fix my chair and everything. Holy, let me lock my chair up. Okay, here we go.
Today's video is sponsored by Displate, and this one is perfect timing. With Valentine's Day coming up, Displate's custom displays is one of the easiest gift ideas I have ever seen. You can upload your own image, your photos, artwork, memories, whatever you want, and apply some built-in filters to give it a clean, polished look without actually having to do any of the extra work yourself. They have a bunch of different filter styles, so whether you want something softer or more dramatic or just a nice version of an original photo, it can handle it for you. Upload the image, pick the filter, and Displate turns it into a high-quality metal poster. If you've never used Displate before, they make premium metal posters. What am I talking about? We have talked about this 100 times. Why haven't you guys bought more of these things? There's no tools. There's no wall damage. They're super easy to hang up and swap out. It's just one of those things that just works, and it looks better than anything else you could be putting up on the wall. They've got over 1 million designs, so if you want to go custom, games, anime, movies, limited edition, texture prints. But for Valentine's Day, you want to get something special, something that really shines. So go ahead and use code LEGENDARY at checkout. Hit the link in the description and take a look. If you're stuck on what you want to get someone this year, this solves the problem pretty fast. Man, Ubisoft used to be that publisher. For the longest time, you didn't even question their releases because these guys just delivered. The 2000s to the early 2010s, it was a ridiculous run. Sands of Time, Splinter Cell, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Rainbow Six Vegas, Rayman Origins. Not all of these games were perfect, but man, these guys had a grip on the industry. Big franchises, real identity, and some real production value. Just solid games all around. Then somewhere in the mid-2010s, the crack started to show, and it stopped just being Ubisoft jank in some of their games, and it started just becoming the entire product. Unity was a disaster. Watch Dogs felt like one of the first times that a ton of people got sold one thing and shipped another. That game did not look anything like its trailers, and yeah, these guys still had some wins in that period. You had Siege and Origins, Far Cry 5, Wildlands, The Division 2, but the rot was already spreading. More formula, more padding, more copy-pasted open worlds full of a shitload of chores, and monetization creeping into everything until single player just barely even meant anything anymore. And that slow decay finally turned into what I view as now an active free fall. Years of fatigue caught up, and now it's just been miss after miss. Avatar, Skull and Bones, X-Defiant, Star Wars Outlaws, even Assassin's Creed Shadows came and went from conversation like it didn't even matter. And none of these games were small bets. These are massive projects, massive budgets, and they didn't pay off. Not a single one of them. Now it's studios being shuttered, layoffs at Massive in Stockholm, leadership shakeups, projects being canceled and delayed. Prince of Persia being one of them. And actually, in some of my conversations with the devs, they told me that they had heard internally that it was all tied up in this training setup with students in India for cheaper labor, and that game was basically so mismanaged.
It's always like that. It's always mismanagement. And who can we hire for the cheapest and to work on our games and stuff? It's always like that. It happened with EA with QA testers, and in other jobs as well. That's how it is. It's unfortunate, but it's how it is.
That it just became completely unsalvageable. Now you have investors that are bailing out. Their stock has been in the dirt for years, and on the US stock exchange, it's sitting at under $1. Everything for this company feels like it's getting worse day by day. So yeah, when I say that Ubisoft is out of time, guys, I am not saying that for the title. I am saying that because that's what it looks like from the outside, and apparently that's exactly what it looks like from the inside. Following the recent reports of Ubisoft developers updating their resumes while they're still employed, and also another developer that got fired for criticizing the company on LinkedIn, I had both former and current Ubisoft developers reach out to me. Their identities will be kept secret for very obvious reasons, but they want people to understand what is actually going on inside the studio and where they think all of this is headed. First, I simply asked, how does it feel working there right now? And they answered, in one word, depressing. It feels like nothing can be done at our scale as employees, and the future looks even worse. I asked, do any of the developers see the light at the end of the tunnel, or do they just feel like they're on the Titanic at this point? They come back to me with, well, as far as I can see, there are three main views. One, I have a family, so I can't really move, so I just hope for the best. Two, I'm preparing my resume. And three, I'll probably just leave the industry.
Yeah.
I then asked, with everything that's happening with the company, management, and the overall direction, do you guys feel like you're even making games for players anymore? They answered, most of the time it's hard to tell. Many just started working like it's a 9 to 5. I responded, well, is that the overall feeling right now? Most people have just checked out. Where do you guys think this company is headed? They respond, I don't think it's everyone yet, but most people think that the direction is delusional and gripping to the hope of releasing a bestseller like Valhalla at its peak at the pandemic, or a Fortnite-like live service. I think that while some don't really think about it, many think that we're just going to end up bought by Tencent for IPs. Well, I'm going to say it's no wonder that these developers feel defeated. They know the company is underperforming. They're watching studios get shut down, watching layoffs roll through, hearing more about right-sizing and reorganizing like it's some sort of seasonal update for the company. You would think at some point these guys would see some real change, something that actually addresses why players have checked out, why we stopped buying their games, why their games pretty much across the board are underperforming. But instead, they have management that is clinging to the same idea over and over again, that they're somehow going to recreate the success of Valhalla, a game that blew up in a once-in-a-lifetime moment where the entire world was locked inside their house, while also chasing the live service dragon, thinking that they're the ones that are going to be able to crack it, even though publisher after publisher has tried and gotten humiliated for it. And the crazy part is that we don't even have to guess if that's the mindset, because Ubisoft's CEO basically said that outright in their investor briefing.
Yep.
On one hand, the AAA industry has become persistently...
It's to the point where... Ow, sorry, my shoulder. It's pretty much just to the point where they're just delusional. And I'm not saying like it's not only Ubisoft, it's just any studio that's really chasing this live service giant that thinks it's going to make a ton of money. It's not. Like, their products are failing. It's not like how it used to be. They think that they can do a nostalgia bait and bring people back. That's not working either. So yeah, you're just making it worse on yourself. And then the fact that you're not listening to your consumers, the people that would bring you in money so you guys can, stay afloat, or, break even to stay afloat, or even make profit off of it. Like, you're just really biting the hand that feeds you, which is weird.
More selective and competitive, with rising development costs and greater challenges in creating brands. On the other hand, exceptional AAA games, when successful, have more financial potential than ever. In this context, today we are announcing a major reset build to create the conditions for a return to sustainable growth over time. We are transforming Ubisoft's operating model to produce exceptional quality games on two core pillars of our strategy: open world adventures and games as a service native experiences. I cannot believe that this is coming from the same company that wrote one of their villains saying, "Do you know the definition of insanity?" These guys are literally betting the house on doing the exact same thing that they've been doing for the past 10 years. Exceptional AAA games are successful and they have more financial potential than ever. Where? When? I haven't seen them. I don't think anybody else has, because the last 5 years have been completely dominated not by exceptional AAA games. No, it's been smaller games, games that are actually focused, games that are actually finished, games made by people who actually know what they're doing. And even when you're making your point that, oh, some of the biggest AAA games that are out there are some of the biggest AAA money printing moments. Okay, yeah, you have Diablo 4. That's probably the only example that you're going to be able to use here. And look where that game ended up. Meanwhile, Baldur's Gate 3, for all intents and purposes, that was definitely a AAA sized cultural event, but it was something that was built closer to a AA budget, single player, no microtransactions. Hell, even the developers are so anti that stuff that they put it in their damn FAQ.
You know, it's kind of funny. I bet you like AAA industry, like I just feel like, and they'll ignore this. I know they will, but you know, it would be like groundbreaking where there's a AAA game that doesn't have microtransaction in it. It could be any type of game. It's just it doesn't have microtransactions and it doesn't have a battle pass. That would really like shock everybody and probably make people want to check the game out. Just saying.
So how do you hear players that have been complaining for years about bloated open world games, about monetization that's infecting everything, about live service elements that are being folded into games that they have no business being there, and then go and look at the graveyard of failed live service launches with a couple of outliers and think that you guys are the ones that are headed in the right direction? What is wrong with this company? I ended up asking the developers directly, are they just flat out ignoring player feedback? What has been their thoughts on how low players think of them? They responded, they are completely ignoring feedback.
They're ignoring feedback. It's the leadership that's doing it. I bet it has to be the leadership that's doing it. The developers are like, we understand you guys are frustrated. We're frustrated. We want to fix the game. We want to make changes to it, but it's not our call. I bet you it's that.
They think that the silent majority will keep buying games and microtransactions. The issue is with leadership that they still think that Ubisoft is leading the open world genre, so quality is never questioned despite the shortfalls of recent releases.
What open world? Like, you have Assassin's Creed, but that's it. Like, you still have, you know, you have Square Enix or Squaresoft, whatever, Squaresoft, Square Enix with freaking Final Fantasy, which has been open world. You have Capcom with Monster Hunter, that's open world. You have Nintendo with their Legend of Zelda games, which are open world as well. How are you leading the open world genre? You're not.
I then asked, so management is flat out not learning their lessons and ignoring players and the teams. They responded, higher ups, yes. Lower management usually want to do something, but are powerless. I hate how vindicating it is to hear something like that. Yeah, it definitely makes me feel justified. I'm sure it makes a lot of you guys feel justified too, but I can't imagine how miserable it must be to work inside of a company where you actually want to do something different. You have people that are there that want to fix it, who can see the problems clearly, but they get stonewalled by leadership that pretends like nothing is wrong.
EA. I'm just going to say now, look at Battlefield. And we're going to have a video where we talk about the update to Battlefield with Season 2, and some people aren't happy about it, and it's things I have addressed. But yeah,
tells them to ignore feedback and just keeps forcing everything in the same direction. Now, I'm sure some of you guys are going to say, just leave. Well, some of these developers are, but it's not that simple. It's not like you have studios around every single corner for these guys to be able to hop to, especially when you got a family, mortgages, visa situations, or whatever else. So what happens instead is exactly what these guys told me. It just turns into a 9 to 5. People check out. They just do what they're told. They just put their head down, hope everything turns out all right. They ride it out and hope that some other company is going to come in and buy them before it all collapses on top of them. I think this is how we're getting a lot of what we're seeing from AAA right now. Games that are launching painfully off the mark, projects that feel like they're wearing the skin of older franchises without any of the soul, and design decisions that feel like they came straight out of a meeting because none of these games are actually being made by the people who work there. They're being made by the people who are telling them what to do, and most of the people that want to try to do anything have already checked out. I've spent a lot of time talking to AAA developers, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is a problem that these guys run into all the time. They hear the players. They know what we're complaining about. They know that they can fix it. They see the way to be able to fix it. They want to fix it.
They're not allowed to.
But management steps in the way every single time. These guys want to fix mechanics. They want to fix character designs, the direction of some of these games. Some of these guys are even pushing back against live service, but management says no. They say that we are wrong, that we're the ones that don't know what we want, and they do know what we want, and then they force these developers to just press ahead. I don't understand how you manage a company this poorly. How do you not listen to your customers? How do you not see these obvious mistakes? How do you not recognize that you have hit an iceberg? Some of these
Because what's gonna happen? Because it's the investors. Investors are like, hey, this is what needs to be in the game. Blah blah blah. And the way how that game is going to sell or have a certain amount of followings is, guess what? You're gonna have content creators like myself. I ain't gonna lie. I am a Ubisoft creator. Yes, I played Skull and Bones. Yes, I was an X-Defiant partner as well. And well, X-Defiant was fun. Was fun to play. But that's what they're gonna do. They're just gonna like, hey, we're gonna have a creator program. We're gonna give these games to the creators. They're gonna play it, stream it, promote it and everything. We're gonna give them what they need, and then most likely people are gonna buy the game, or they're gonna buy the game and play it, or they're gonna download it if it's a free to play and play it and see and go from there. So there's always gonna be somebody that's gonna play the game, regardless.
These people have been working at this company forever. Some of the guys are the people that owned it and operated it and founded the company, and they still don't see any of this stuff. And while I am all for Ubisoft cutting weight, I've talked about that a ton of times. They have way too many people that are working at that company. There's still over 17,000 people. None of these layoffs mean a thing if this company does not learn from any of its failures. And they're not. I mean,
I will say this, 17,000 people, yeah, it is a lot. I will say that it's okay to have 10,000 people. I'm just going to say now, just my personal opinion. It's okay to have 10,000 people. Now, having 10,000 people working on one single title, that's a problem. If you're working on multiple titles, like 17,000 people, shoot, probably five titles, maybe 5 titles or 4 titles. And then like the other part of the team is working on content, like for release, or not for release, but like for post launch, for DLC, maybe for an update for like season 2 content. Like they're working on that. I mean, that's what I would do.
CEO actually believes that the only reason that Star Wars Outlaws failed is because the Star Wars IP is bad, because nobody likes Star Wars anymore. Even though I'm pretty sure people really liked Andor, and there was a movie that came out that I think a lot of people like. I didn't get to watch it. I've been out of the whole Star Wars thing for a while.
People love Star Wars. The thing is, they thought that they can make whatever with Star Wars Outlaws, that they can make the game like how it is and think that it will sell well just because they slap on a Star Wars name. If it was something else, I bet you that game would never, people would not even play the game. But because it's a Star Wars name, they slapped that. Because it's a Star Wars IP, they slapped it on the game. Then they're like, oh, okay. It's like getting, I don't know, was it Dr. Thunder from freaking Walmart, right? Which is the Great Value Dr. Pepper, ripping that label off the bottle and then slapping a Dr. Pepper logo on there. People know the flavor is different.
For a while. We also had Battlefront that saw a massive resurgence of players just before the launch of Star Wars Outlaws. So how does that make sense?
And Battlefield too.
How delusional can you get?
Which is insane.
Well, apparently pretty damn delusional, because it's going to get worse. Wait till you hear how these guys reacted to the success of Expedition 33 and how their solution to their over-management problem is more middle management. Over the past couple of months, Ubisoft has basically delivered nothing but bad news, but in the middle of that, they still took the time to hold an investor meeting for like the 5 investors that these guys still have left, giving their plans for 2026 and beyond. More cuts, more projects being shelved, and the big headline that they really wanted everybody to focus on was a complete restructuring, supposedly aimed at delivering higher quality games. They're carving the company up into 5 creative houses, with Ubisoft HQ overseeing all of it, and they're selling this as a new era of speed and discipline, placing creative and financial accountability closer to where value is created, simplifying the organization, better deploying resources, all the usual bullshit. So the obvious question is, what does this actually mean for the people that are making games? Because Ubisoft loves announcing plans, but they don't really like following through on a lot of things. What I want to know is whether or not this is actually going to make anything better. I asked the developers, I know that they had pivoted, reorganized, brought in some new leadership, but my biggest worry, and probably the same worry a lot of other players is having right now, is this company being run by people who actually know how games are made? Are you running into that kind of problem? They responded, there are several issues that plague the company. That pivot looks like fairy dust, to be honest. Most leadership was already there. We used to have zones a year or two before creative houses, which did nothing but create a new layer of management. There are still some people at the head of the company that have been in game development at some point, but it's been years. The way that games are made now is different. I also heard that most of them are just yes men now. Okay, so this is where things are getting really good. So basically what they're saying is the restructuring is just a smoke.
I bet you it's yes men. The reason why it is because they don't want to get fired. I mean, I completely understand that. If they're like, yeah, the reason why we're saying yes to this, even though we don't agree with it, is because we don't want to get fired, because the job market is ridiculous right now, especially for the gaming industry. Oops.
It's the same people, maybe a couple of new faces, but most of the leadership has been removed from the actual work for years, so many of them don't even understand how games are made today, which is making things even more difficult for the developers. They're essentially being given new management that hasn't worked on games in years or have never personally worked on a game before, all while the company is placing another layer of management on top of all of that to make things worse. Unable to believe what I was hearing, I asked them to clarify. Yeah, as I said, right now it's a bit chaotic. It feels not as planned as publicly showcased. Well, it wasn't really organized into creative houses, just there are now projects that belong into different ones within the organization in the same building. I responded, that seems wildly disorganized. So how many layers of management are there between the developer and the studio head? They came back with, depends on the game. On a mid-sized project where the whole team is in one studio, you could have 6 to 7 layers between developer and the studio head. If it's a multi-studio collaboration, it gets worse. You can easily hit 10 or 11 layers because the team and even sometimes the directors sit under a studio lead, which has their own management chain under the game producer. I then asked them, is that normal? That feels like a lot of layers of management. Doesn't that cause issues? No wonder developers don't feel heard. Nobody can hear you. They responded, no, it causes a lot of issues. Meetings are bloated. Most people zone out. Information gets lost. People work on things that are not up to date. Work that has already been done without consulting another team needs to be redone or patched. Feedback arrives late or not at all. Fixes often get delayed and pushed as much as possible, rushed, or even put off until launch.
That's why it seems like when it comes to like if certain games and stuff where they're like, oh, here's an update, and then we get the update and it feels like the bugs and stuff that were fixed, that were patched like a long time ago, somehow reappear, because it seems like one team is working on like a packaged build already and they already fixed like certain issues and everything, and then another team is working on another one, and it's not put together. It's like they just overlap or overwrite it. So it's not good. It's not good at all.
Well, doesn't that explain all the issues that we see in games and why budgets have ballooned to hundreds of millions of dollars? When you have 7 layers of people between the ones doing the work and the ones that are steering the project, sometimes even 10 or 11, game development isn't even about making the game anymore. It's playing a game of telephone. You're just trying to push a message through a human maze, and by the time it reaches the other side, if it even does, it's going to be watered down, misunderstood, outdated, or it's just going to collide with something that another team already did. And that doesn't just explain bugs, that also explains the quality drop. The way that these franchises have slowly started to lose their identity, and they've started to wear the skin of what they used to be because nothing is getting through cleanly. Proposed changes, even simple ones, are going to take weeks or months for these guys to be able to move on. And beyond that, it also applies to the soul of the project. How clearly can a vision come through when someone who is writing the dialogue, designing levels, or trying to shape the narrative has to pass everything through layers of Dante's Inferno just to try to get a straight answer? The only thing that's going to survive is going to be the simplest version of everything possible. Safe choices, repeatable formulas, stuff that is easy to justify and easy to track. The only thing that you're ever really going to see change, especially from Ubisoft titles, is going to be the monetization because, well, that's ironclad. That's a demand that's coming from the top with no mixed messaging. Also, probably a lot of stuff from their HR department, too. I just don't get how you look at the past couple of years and think that doubling down is the answer. The industry has been reporting the opposite right now. Tighter teams, tighter scopes, lower budgets, games with real identity. And yeah, AAA is still going to hit sometimes, but the conversation keeps getting swallowed by stuff like Silksong or Schedule 1 or Expedition 33. How are you not going to learn from that? Which then reminded me, for how big Expedition 33 got, even the French Prime Minister had shouted them out. Ubisoft was silent. So I asked the developers, what was the internal reaction to Sandfall's success, especially with former Ubisoft developers on that team, and did they learn anything from it? They responded, none. No reaction. They believe that Ubisoft isn't doing the same scale of game and that this team size isn't fit for a project that the company needs to make. As I said, they want to focus on live service and open world. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I had to pry further, so they just brushed it off. No internal discussion. They come back saying many of the developers are players too, people that love the game, and they tried to bring it up to management saying, why don't we have projects like this? And they found 10 bullshit excuses to showcase how unrealistic it is and how we should ignore it in an internal Q&A. You know, the famous "it's an exception." Executives said there are tons of other indie games like this that fail. Can you guys imagine being in that building and hearing that? You go and you play Expedition 33, you're hyped for the people that used to sit a couple of desks away from you. You see the whole industry light up over it, and you're thinking, finally, we have proof of concept that the smaller, focused, actually creative approach can still work, and your own executives look you in the face and go, nah. What is wrong with these people? Not what we can learn, not why did this land, not how do we get some of that discipline back, just excuses, dismissal, a corporate coping mechanism. We don't make games like that. It's an exception. Indie games fail all the time. We do live service and open worlds. It's just so gross. It's not even a disagreement about taste. It's just an admission that their model matters more than their own craft does. The people inside are trying to do what they can, and they're trying to fix games and make them better, but the leadership is basically saying, sorry, that's not the business that we're in. I can't help but think that these guys, their executive staff, had to have just been so salty about Expedition 33. That game had lit up the entire industry. Everybody was talking about it. You have your own government talking about it. Yeah, I'd imagine these guys weren't very happy. I mean, every single headline, every video, every review made sure to make mention that a couple of their employees had slipped out the back and made a better game without them. I can't imagine that these guys took it all that well. They did the exact same thing with Dispatch. And you know what's really funny is that if I recall correctly, there were developers that came out and there were reports that were made that similar concepts were brought up to Ubisoft, but they had passed on it. Imagine being that blind to the own talent in your studios, your own talent in your studios. Imagine being that blind to good ideas that you guys.
Yeah, wasn't it like, was it Hightail? Not Highguard, Hightail. That happened with Riot Games. Riot Games like bought out Hightail, and then they just sat on the IP. They didn't do anything with it, and then the developers came back and bought back the IP and finished it, and now it's out. It's still early access, but it's out.
Guys couldn't pick that stuff up. Imagine being so bitter that you can't even learn lessons from it.
It's crazy.
The CEO needs to resign. It's the only way that I see this company finding any success. All of their bad decisions are coming from the top. I know in a lot of cases people want to point out the developers, and in some case it is the developers that are the problem. That's not saying that Ubisoft doesn't have any problem developers or any other parts of leadership, but a lot of this stuff is coming from the top.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that they're just ruining this entire company. I mean, I am of the mind that the only reason that Tencent is investing as much money as they are is because they know they're investing into the Titanic, and they know that ship is going to sink right into their own pocket. They're just going to take all of the IP. Yep. And whether that actually means a better environment for the developers or them just shipping all those games off to be developed in China or something like that instead, I have no idea. But I will say this, and I don't say it very often, I feel bad for these developers. What a hellish and blind environment to work in, with no care for the art of game making and also no care for what the customers are asking them to make.
Yep.
Did you know that the hires that they made to fix Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six for Vantage Studios is the CEO's son and his cousin? His son, by the way, his only experience is in NFT games and mobile games. So, you know, that bodes well for those franchises. Ooh. I'm sure that's going to go just fine. You know, it's one thing to be this ignorant when you're successful. It's an entirely different thing to be this ignorant when you are one of the biggest, scratch that, were one of the biggest publishers in the games industry with some of the most recognized IP in the games industry, and now you're circling the drain. But for whatever reason, you will just not learn from any of your mistakes.
Nope.
They just don't exist. You have to ignore them. You tell your developers to ignore them when your developers are actively begging you, trying to fix things. They want to make better games. They want to be in smaller teams. They are telling you what the problems are, but you guys just won't listen to them. This is the reason why smaller studios do so well. It's because they have an easier time communicating with one another. an easier time keeping one cohesive creative vision, an easier time listening to the players. I don't see this company getting better, especially with the way that they treat their developers, especially with the way they run their business. And if things don't change fast, they're going to be done sooner than we think.
Yep.
Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure to share the video on social media. Share it with your friends. Share it all to everybody. Share it with your family. Watch it around the TV, whatever you guys want to do. Follow me on Twitch. Follow me on Twitter. I will catch you guys in the next one. Stay cool. Stay righteous. Stay safe. Peace.
Man, oh man. And that is from the man himself, Legendary Drops. Man, what a video. I'll make sure to share that. Uno mas. Go. Yeah, it's insane seeing like what's going on in the industry. And people just don't, I want to say people, but people just don't care. I just have to say it. I have to admit, people just don't care about it. And it's like, dude, like everything is crashing. It's on fire. Like, you guys need to fix this. And they're just like, hell no. No. Their obscure Expedition 33 did very well from their former developers. And they're just like, okay, cool. They made a good game, but we're still better. How? So it's just crazy to see what's going on with them.